Hey, Pawn family, welcome back to another great episode of the Pawn Leaders Podcast. And on this episode, I have a pawnbroker who I just met at the Dixie Convention. Scott was born in Philadelphia and moved at the age of 3 to Las Vegas, Nevada. His dad was a professional poker player, and for anyone who knows the poker world, won the World Series of Poker in 1984. He moved a lot following his dad and his work, including a short time in Chicago. He attended high school in Las Vegas and went to Arizona State College. And prior to graduating in 1998, he received a call from his mother saying, "We're opening up a pawn shop." So to help the family, he moved to Lake Cormorant, which isn't a lake anymore, and opened the doors for them. And I've been there ever since, loving what he does every single day. Scott, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Hey, what's going on, bud? Hey, hello, everybody out there.
And thank you so much for being here. I know that we just met at the Dixie Convention. It was a pleasure.
Oh, it was
and
a
you
blast.
seem like a guy who knows so much about the industry, who loves the industry. And I said, you're a guy I got to have on the podcast. So thanks for coming on.
I don't know if I know everything, but, I love learning about it. I tell everybody when I go to a convention, I learn more at the bar than I do in the convention because I love sitting around with these guys. And, I mean, you got a guy who's got 30, 40 years of experience. And normally if you talk to him, he'd never tell you anything. Put a couple bourbons in him, and he'll tell you whatever you need to know, right? And it's absolutely the best thing in the world. And I try and get people, especially the guys who own these smaller pawn shops, to go to conventions, to go to meetings, to get to know these guys. And some of them just refuse. And I'm like, you don't understand. Yes, I know it's a hard schedule, and you got to fit it in. But I'll be honest, one day at a convention is 6 months worth of experience in the store.
I agree, man. I totally agree with you. I believe that if you're in an area that you can get out to a convention, a meeting, a state association, do it. Like, it's so important to learn from other people. That way you don't make the same mistakes that they made, and they've just pushed forward your education along for, like you said, a bourbon.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big believer in that. And I don't know if you noticed me at the convention, but I was there first thing every morning and the last one there at night. And that's absolutely what I try and push people to do, because it's a great experience. It's a great education. And I'll be honest, for the amount of money that you get charged, especially at the smaller conventions, it's worth every dime.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. So let's talk about your pawn shop a little bit and how you got into the business. Tell me, I kind of hit on it that in 1998, your mother called you and said, "We're opening up a pawn shop." Tell me the story of why she said you were meant to work in a pawn shop.
Well, the story I tell everybody, and my mom loves telling, is she took me to flea markets when I was a kid. And just naturally, I just knew how to haggle. She said, nobody ever taught me how to do this, but I'd take $5 and put it in this pocket and $8 and put it in that pocket and walk up to a vendor who's selling something for $10, reach in one pocket and go, but I only have $8, right? And she just sit back and laugh, knowing that I had 3 or 4 pockets full of different amounts of money, but that this little 7, 8, 10-year-old kid could walk up and essentially grift these guys into selling them something for cheaper than they would sell to anybody else, and take it, whatever I was buying, put it in my pocket, give it to my mom, and move on to the next table. And I always knew how much money I had in which pocket. And by the end of the day, I'd made a killing, just absolutely, taking a shortcut around these guys who'd never seen a kid haggle like this.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And after that, and, mom's always been one of my supporters, went to college of a double major in poli-sci and history. So I tell everybody I went to school to learn how to bull. And all of a sudden got a call from my mom, said, "Hey, we're opening a pawn shop," which was very weird for me because I'm the first person in my family to have a steady paycheck in 20 years. Dad being a professional poker player, we were never used to actually, running a shop or doing anything. So we showed up, they gave me the keys and said, "Good luck, have fun." And I got thrown into the gauntlet. I had no idea what I was doing, had no idea what the pawn industry was about, and had to learn it from the steps all the way up.
Nice, man. And one thing that surprised me is you kept on saying, "Yeah, my shop's in the middle of nowhere." And I really didn't believe you. You Google mapped it and you are in the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely. I'm on Highway 61, which is the thoroughfare between Memphis and Tunica, Mississippi. We're kind of way off in the middle of nowhere. Literally, my backyard is surrounded by soybean or cotton or whatever they plan to grow this year. This year it's going to be soybeans. Nobody around here likes rice because they just flood the fields. And all we depend on is drive-by traffic, people that see us. It was funny. I was talking to one of my pawnbroker buddies from Australia, and he actually had his guys, look me up on Google Earth. One of their main complaints was we don't get enough walk-by traffic. And he actually interviewed me in front of all his main guys, and he says, okay, what do you do if somebody walks into your store? And I said, you mean like drive up and walk in? He says, no. If they just flat out walk into your store from the road, what do you do? I said, I hand them a phone and a bottle of water. And he goes, why? I said, because it broke down somewhere. They need to make a phone. There's no other reason why you walk into my store. That's it. If you're not driving there, there's no reason to be there.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about
go ahead.
Tell us a little bit about the regulations. Like, what can you charge? How long is the hold period?
Mississippi is actually a fairly lenient state. We can charge 25%. We have to hold for 2 months. So it's 300% APR. We are allowed to hold buys 2 weeks if we do automatic computer transferring to the police, 3 weeks if we're having to upload or fax pawn tickets to police. Overall, the banking commission works with us really well. They've actually said that in meetings with us, is that when we show up to pawn conventions and everything else, if you're in the room with us, we don't have issues with you. Very, very few times. As a matter of fact, I think the only time the banking commission has ever made a censure against any pawn shop was one time about 10 years ago, and it was down on the coast. And it was simply because he wasn't using pawn tickets. Wow. And that's absolutely a no-no, and he had to get censured. Other than that, banking commission works really well with us, and our laws work great.
Nice, man. So tell me, like, how many people are in your town, city area that you?
Sure. Well, actually, we looked it up. When we compared it to your main store, for our zip code, for our local zip code, we had 2,200 people.
Yeah.
And I believe the median income was $45,000. It was a really high ratio of males to females. It was like 75% male, 25% female, which actually that surprised me. But yeah, it's kind of a little area, and yes, we do pull a lot from the locals, but we pull a lot from all over the world. One of the cool things is we're on Highway 61, which is a blues highway. So we actually get to meet people who are making the blues trek that go from Memphis all the way down to North.
Scott, give me 1 second. Scott.
People from Italy.
Hold on 1 second, man. I'm gonna. This is on my end. I'm gonna turn off the video because it's cutting you off a little bit. All right, so don't freak out.
No.
So, cool. So go ahead and hit stop video on yours as well.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So let's go back and so we'll pick this up again. And this is the question of, you were saying how you get people on the blues highway. So just pick it up from right there.
Right. Yeah. We get people from all over the world who show up to Memphis and they want to travel all the way down Highway 61 through 49 to the blues crossroads. And we've gotten some really cool customers come in from Italy, England, all the time from England. Actually had a couple come in from Spain about 2 months ago, and they were absolutely a blast to meet. In the end, we swapped hats, and I ended up with he was a police officer from Spain, so I ended up with a Spanish police hat.
Nice.
Best trade I ever made. It was absolutely a cool thing, and I love meeting those folks that are from everywhere across the world. And one of the cool things about our stores, we kind of suck them in. You know, I'm a bit of a stand-up comedian, and the other manager we have is definitely a musician. So he'll pull a guitar off the wall, he'll sing, he'll play piano. And we love telling them the stories of the blues and the Delta and everything else. My philosophy in the shop has always been kind of that of a casino, which is the longer they're there, the more chances they'll spend money and the more they'll spend.
I love it.
And the more conversation that we can have with somebody doesn't just help us, it helps them. And in the end, I've learned way more from my customers than I ever have from any book anybody else could have ever taught me. So I love just talking to people, getting their stories, finding out where they're from. It's an absolute blast.
So I'm hearing two things, Scott. One is that, the people who complain about, I don't have enough foot traffic, I don't have enough people walking in, you're making them walk in because of who you are and the way you serve your clients.
Oh yeah, that's rule number one. The client comes first. And part of that is not just treating them well, but it's treating them with empathy. I'll tell you a funny story. On my honeymoon, we actually went to Australia. We hooked up with a buddy of mine down there, and he took us out to dinner, and we went to 8, 9, 10 bars. And about the 10th bar, I pulled him aside and said, man, I can't keep going like this. What are we doing? He said, well, I'm opening a new shop, and I'm looking for pawnbrokers. And I said, what? He goes, bartenders make the best pawnbrokers. They can remember somebody's name, they can remember their drink, and they can talk to them. They can empathize with them. So what you didn't see was that out of the 10 bars we went to, I pulled 3 guys aside, gave them my card and a $50 bill, and said, call me Monday morning, and we'll talk about what we can do for you.
Nice.
And from what I've talked about, a lot of the other pawnbrokers I know that are great, that are empathetic, used to be bartenders. It seems to be a very common thing, but it works for us because that works at the counter.
Yeah. And the other thing I heard, Scott, was that you try to keep them in the store for a long time because the longer they stay, the more they'll spend or you have a chance of selling them something. So
absolutely,
you're not just rushing them out the door. You're taking your time with them.
Yeah. Well, if they want to do business, I want to go as fast as I can. But if they want to take the time to stay, absolutely stay. Please stay. And we've had people come in, pawn, make a payment, and put something in layaway in the same shop because they wanted to stay around and listen and BS and talk and tell jokes. So that's great for me. The more business that I can, produce out of whatever I'm given, I'll take a lemon and squeeze lemonade out of it.
Nice. And I remember my time, on the line, that people would come in to get money and then they'd tell you why they need it. And then they would just tell you their lives.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I tell everybody I'm a priest, bartender, and banker rolled into one. So, absolutely. I'll listen to your story. I'll tell you what you think you need to do. I'm a jailhouse lawyer on the side. I've been asked for legal advice many times. And anything like that, I don't mind telling them. I tell them flat up, I'm not a lawyer, but this is what I've seen. This is what I know. From there, do your research.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that we have to be empathetic with, the clients that walk in because they're not going through the best scenario.
No. My favorite line is, I have great customers that I see on bad days. Nobody ever comes to see me when they're having a great day. When they come to see me, they're at the bottom of the line and they need my help, right? Well, part of our business is being that help, and they know they can come to us when they're in a bad spot. So I tell people, when I see people, I have great people that I deal with. I just have to deal with them on their worst days.
Man, I think that's such a good phrase, because if you walk into the pawn shop like that and know that the people walking in aren't doing this, being in a bad mood, or if they get a little bit angry, it's not personal towards you.
Oh, no.
It's more they're great customers and it's their bad day, and it happens to all of us.
Right. And I try and tell everybody that pawnbrokers have bad days too. I had one lady who I didn't know, 2 + 2 didn't add up to me, but she pulled me aside after I'd known her about a year, and she said, by the way, I want to let you know that you were a completely different person than I expected. I said, how's that? She goes, well, the first time I came into the store, I was trying to sell my Rolex. And the first thing that you said to me was, I'm having a bad day. So, please forgive me. And I really was. I was having a very bad day. And about
you told her you were having a bad day.
Yeah. And she said, you're absolutely right, because I've known you for a year now, and I've never seen you again like that. She goes, you must have just had a very bad day. I said, I actually think I remember that now. And yes, it was, you caught me at the end of one of my very bad days. But tell everybody has bad days, and all you can do is try and make it better for everybody else. In the meantime, it makes it better for you.
Man, this is huge, Scott. I think this is a big mindset shift because a lot of times pawnbrokers think that people are walking in, they know that they're at their wits' end, that they need some cash, but they forget how bad it feels to need $5 or $10.
Right. Oh
And
yeah.
how not embarrassing, because it's not embarrassing to walk into the pawn shop, but I've never felt it. And the moment where you say like, I've got nowhere else to go. I need to go, get money for my ring, my laptop, whatever it is, it's not a great situation.
The one time you can really see it is, ironically enough, one of the classes that I needed to actually graduate from college. I was short 2 classes. One was a non-lab science and one was Spanish 202. And I tell everybody, when I opened my shop, I did not speak very good Spanish. But over the years, it's one of the things I knew that I needed to learn was Spanish. Now, I'm not saying I'm completely fluent. Matter of fact, I'm hardly there. I know just enough to get, hurt in a border town. But one of the biggest looks of relief is when a Hispanic couple comes in and they have their kid with them. And the kid's 9, 10, 12, and they're using him as a translator to pawn. And they realize I speak enough Spanish to help them in their transaction without their child. And they realize, oh, wow, now we don't have to let our 12-year-old know that we're broke. And this guy can take care of us enough that we can do business. We don't need to tell our 12-year-old that we're broke. And voila, he's really helping us out. And the look of relief on their faces is just amazing.
Man, that's incredible. That's incredible. The stores I had were in a very, very big Latin area, and we were blessed to know Spanish really well.
Yes.
But I agree. I think it's knowing your customer, knowing what they need, and making them feel comfortable, because it's got to be uncomfortable walking into the pawn shop.
Right.
And so even if you've been a client for 15 years, right?
Right.
So I commend you on that, man. I think it's incredible that you see it that way, and empathy for me is huge when it comes to clients. So good on you for that, man. Now, let's talk about this. You came to the show with some weird items that you didn't even know what they were. That
and
you
I still
bought
don't.
them or you took them into pawn. I'm going to guess that down the Blues Highway, you come into some very, very particular stuff.
Oh, the other thing is I'm known to take it all. Basically it's got to be. It either has to be something that's so odd, or I know I'd have to insult you so much that I won't take it. Well, I have a pretty small building. My building's maybe only 1,800 square feet, which, all right, in the some cities is pretty big, but down here it really limits me. Is I can't take furniture, I can't take washer dryers, because they literally take up too much landscape. They take up too much area.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'll take anything. In the last year, the only things I can think of that I've turned down are like plastic plants, an egg incubator, and a wedding dress. And I actually have been yelled at since then about not taking the egg incubator, because people around here are like, "Oh, did you get it? I want one." I'm like, "Oh, great. Now I know." So the next time I see an egg incubator, I'll absolutely buy it. But as far as the wedding dresses, I don't want to tell this young lady that her $500 to $5,000 wedding dress is worth $15 in a pawn shop. I'd rather not insult you like that.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. So. And so for all these years, 19 years, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned, sitting with the people at the bar, going to these conventions, doing, transaction after transaction, that you want to give to, another pawnbroker who's listening to this, might be in their second or third year of business?
Yeah.
What would you offer them? Like the 3 biggest lessons that you've learned that have created the success that you have today?
Let's see. That's a hard question. One, don't be afraid to admit that you've made a mistake. Nice. Right? We all make mistakes. My biggest mistakes are speed and greed. Right? And I try every day to cut that out. And of course, my human nature gets in the way, but speed and greed are my weaknesses. And if you know what your weaknesses are, you can support them and then push your good points. So I'm very good at haggling. I'm very good at recognizing what somebody needs, but at the same time, speed and greed get in the way. So I need to take my time, not be greedy, and talk to people. And that's number one. Number two is be willing to try anything, even if it doesn't work. I have tried taking almost everything, and sometimes it works for you and sometimes it doesn't. Everybody's individual location, leads to being successful in certain things. I know guys up here that run pawn shops that are 90% guns, and it works for them. Or at the same time, we like to be between 70 and 80% jewelry, but that really works for us. It's what we know the best. It's what we do the best. And lastly, I'd say that is have fun. If you're in this industry, it leads itself to the ability to have fun, right? That you get to have a great time at work. Use that to your advantage. If you're having a great time, your customers are going to have a great time. If you're having a blast, trust me, it'll make your employees happy. It'll make your customers happy. And at the end of the day, you'll leave. If you leave with a smile, it's been a great day.
I love that, man. I just want to go over that. Number one is speed and greed. Don't do things too quickly and don't get greedy. Number two, try anything. And the third one, which is have fun. I think that's why I was so, connected to you at the Dixie convention, was because you were always smiling, always laughing, always offering advice, it was just a good time. And you can see how much you love your life, how much you love working at the pawn shop, and how much you love this industry. So I really, really appreciate that. Yeah.
And I tell everybody we only work half a day because we open at 8 a.m. and we close at 8 p.m. So we only work half days. And everybody thinks I complain about the long hours, but honestly, when I'm working that shift, it's great. I have fun for 12 hours. Matter of fact, the only time when I'm bored is when no one's there. Right?
Yeah.
Bring them in the door, get them in the door. Let me talk to them. It perks me up every time.
That's awesome, man. Scott, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for joining us on the Pawn Leaders podcast. Yeah. If you haven't met Scott, reach out to him. He's a great guy, knows a lot. And if you're at a convention with him, he's just a good time. Yeah. Like you really are. Always smiling, always happy, man. So I appreciate that.
All right, man. Hey, it was blast. And if I can do anything for you ever, let me know. And you got to come down and visit us sometime. You at least got to make a tour.
For sure. I was so close. Next time I'm going to go out there and travel a little bit. There's a couple of shops in Mississippi I want to see and people I want to visit.
Well, hey, all right. I got an idea for you. Next year, you pull in, you fly into Little Rock, and you rent you an RV. And on the way down, you pick up all the pawnbrokers you can. And then we have a party all the way down to Orange Beach. You drive.
That sounds great. That actually sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. I figure it'd be a blast.
Nice, man. Beautiful. So, Pawn family, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Pawn Leaders podcast. Remember to check us out on Facebook on the Pawn Leaders podcast community, where we're chatting and we're in there. And Scott, I don't know if you're in there or not, but I'll put you in. Right. If you have any questions for Scott, he'll be in there. And don't forget, if you want to have a conversation with me, I give out complimentary strategy sessions. And go to pawnleaders.com and just give me your information, book a time, and let's rock and roll. Thanks again, and I look forward to having you guys on the next episode. Cool, man. Turn on your camera, brother.
Oh, good. Hang on. Let me figure out how to – I still don't know how this thing works. So.
No, that was incredible, man. Thank you so much for being on. I truly appreciate it. That was a great interview.
I didn't know if that was about what you wanted or what,
You know what? I put out a questionnaire yesterday, and most of the people in the group, I don't know if you're in the group or not, I'll put you in.
I am.
You are. I am. Yeah, and they're like, we want to hear about more pawnbrokers and how they got in the business and what makes them successful and just like little pieces of information. So this is what they love. So
yeah. Hey, it's a fun place, man. I love this business.
Yeah. And my goal at some point was to do like a show where I take a camera crew and like drive around and go to different pawn shops and, go in and talk with the owner. So we'll make that happen at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Put me on that list.
For sure, man. Awesome. Right. But we'll have an incredible week and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
All right, man.
Oh, wait, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Who would you recommend for me to reach out to be on the podcast? Who's a pawnbroker that you look up to? who's running a great business, who's a leader in the industry?
Stan Thomas, out of Arkansas. He runs Big Brother Pawn. He's got about 4 or 5 shops.
Okay.
And he is a great guy. He and his wife are phenomenal. So.
All right. I think I have their card actually. Was he at the show?
Yeah, he was at the show.
All right. Let me see if I have his card.
And he seems like a very calm, mild-mannered guy, but he runs a hell of a shop.
Yeah. Do you have it? Do you have his contact info?
I'll send it on Facebook.
Yeah, send it on Facebook, or maybe just do an introduction email. That always helps me out a lot.
Yeah.
Just to get some more pawnbrokers on here.
Yeah.
I had someone's card from Big Brother who walked by my booth at the Dixie. But cool, man. All right.